It's 2 a.m. You should be asleep. You have things to do tomorrow, and you know that lying here running the same conversation through your head for the fourth time isn't helping anything. You know this. And yet, the thoughts keep coming. What did they mean when they said that? Should I have responded differently? What if I made the wrong decision? What if everything I'm building falls apart? What if I'm not as capable as people think I am? And then, somewhere underneath all of that, what is wrong with me that I cannot simply stop? If this sounds like you, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken. Carl Jung spent years trying to understand why certain minds simply won't quiet down. And his answer points somewhere most people don't expect. The overthinking isn't the problem, it's a symptom. And the real question is, what is it a symptom of? The mind that won't rest. Jung believed the psyche is always trying to move toward balance. He called this process compensation, the unconscious constantly working to correct whatever the conscious mind is overdoing or ignoring. Overthinking, in this framework, is rarely random. It's the mind circling something it hasn't been able to resolve, something it hasn't been given permission to feel, decide, or release. The thoughts loop not because the mind is broken, but because something underneath them is unfinished. Think of it like a smoke alarm. The alarm itself isn't the fire. It's pointing to something. And silencing the alarm, which is what most overthinking advice tries to do, doesn't address what triggered it in the first place. The looping thought, the one you can't shake, the scenario you keep replaying, is almost always pointing to something real. A fear that hasn't been faced, a decision that hasn't been made, a feeling that hasn't been allowed to exist. Overthinking and the unlived feeling. Here's something Jung understood that most modern approaches to overthinking completely miss. Overthinking is very often a substitute for feeling. When an emotion is too uncomfortable to sit with directly, the mind converts it into thought. Instead of feeling the grief, you analyze the situation. Instead of feeling the fear, you run through every possible outcome. Instead of sitting with the uncertainty, you try to think your way to certainty, which never actually arrives because certainty isn't a thought. It's a feeling of safety that no amount of analysis can manufacture. This is why overthinking is so exhausting. You're not just thinking. You're burning enormous mental energy trying to solve an emotional problem with an intellectual tool. It's like trying to satisfy hunger by reading a recipe. The activity is related to the need, but it can't actually meet it. The thought loop breaks when you stop trying to think your way through it and start asking, what am I actually feeling underneath all of this? Not what do I think about the situation, but what do I feel? What emotion is the thinking trying to avoid? That question, answered honestly, is often the beginning of the loop finally slowing down. The role of control. Jung also connected overthinking to the ego's need for control. And this is worth sitting with, because most overthinkers don't see themselves as control-seeking people. They experience themselves as anxious, uncertain, overwhelmed. But underneath, the anxiety is almost always a desperate attempt to control outcomes through thought. If I can just think through every possible scenario, I'll be prepared for whatever happens. If I can just figure out what they really meant, I'll know how to respond. If I can just understand exactly what went wrong, I can make sure it never happens again. The mind is trying to think its way to safety, to certainty, to a place where nothing can catch it off guard. But here's the problem. Life doesn't offer that certainty. No amount of mental preparation eliminates uncertainty. And the mind that keeps trying to achieve certainty through thinking is like someone bailing out a boat with a teaspoon. The effort is real. The exhaustion is real. But the problem isn't actually being solved. Jung would say the antidote to the need for control isn't more analysis. It's developing a relationship with the unknown that isn't based on fear. Learning to tolerate not knowing. Learning to trust that even when you can't predict or control the outcome, you will be able to handle whatever comes. That trust isn't built through thinking. It's built through experience, through having survived uncertainty before, and through slowly, deliberately, choosing to act before everything is perfectly figured out. Hash the shadow underneath, the overthinking. Almost every pattern we've talked about in this series connects back to the shadow. Overthinking is no exception. Very often, the thoughts that loop most persistently are connected to shadow material. Things you haven't fully acknowledged about yourself, feelings you're not supposed to have, truths you're not quite ready to face. The conversation you keep replaying might be looping because somewhere in it, a part of you said or felt something that doesn't fit your self-image. The decision you can't stop second-guessing might be looping because the honest answer conflicts with what you think you should want. The mind keeps circling because there's something in the center of the circle it isn't ready to look at directly yet. The overthinking is, in this sense, a kind of protection. It keeps you busy enough that you don't have to stop and confront what's actually there. This isn't a criticism. It's just how the psyche works when it's trying to protect you from something it considers too threatening to face all at once. The question is whether the protection is still serving you or whether it's become a prison. Hash why some people overthink more than others. Jung's theory of psychological types is relevant here. He believed people are fundamentally different in how they process the world, and one of the key dimensions is the difference between thinking types and feeling types. Thinking types tend to process experience primarily through analysis and logic. They're naturally comfortable in the realm of ideas, and they tend to reach for thought when they encounter difficulty. This isn't a flaw. It's a genuine strength in many situations. But when a thinking type encounters something that can only be resolved through feeling, through sitting with an emotion, making a values-based decision, or accepting something that can't be logically justified, the thinking function can become overactive. It keeps spinning because it's being asked to do a job it wasn't designed for. If you're someone who overthinks, there's a decent chance you're more comfortable in your head than in your emotional experience. Not because you don't have feelings, but because at some point, being in your head felt safer than being in your body, in your feelings, in the raw and uncontrollable territory of actual emotion. The path through overthinking, for many people, isn't more thinking. It's learning to come back into the body, into the breath, into the physical sensation of the feeling that the mind is working so hard to avoid. Hash practical ways to break the loop. Jung's approach was always about consciousness, about bringing what's unconscious into awareness. So let's get specific about what that actually looks like when the 2 a.m. loop starts. The first thing to try is what Jung might call following the thought to its source. Instead of trying to stop the thought, follow it. Ask, what am I actually afraid of here? Keep asking. I'm afraid they think badly of me. Why does that matter? Because if people think badly of me, I'll be rejected. And if you're rejected, then I'll be alone. And what does being alone mean to you? Keep following the thread until you hit something that feels true and tender. That's usually the real fear. And the real fear, once named, is almost always more manageable than the swirling cloud of thoughts that was circling it. The second thing is to give the thought a deadline. Tell yourself, I will think about this fully for the next 10 minutes and then I will stop. Set a timer. Give the mind permission to do what it's doing, but with a container around it. This works because the mind often loops because it feels like the thinking is urgent and unfinished. Giving it a dedicated window, paradoxically, often quiets it. The third thing is to move. Literally, the body and the mind are not separate systems. When the mind is stuck in a loop, the body is usually still and tense. Movement, even a short walk, changes the physiological state and interrupts the loop in a way that no amount of mental effort can. And the fourth, perhaps the most important, ask yourself if there's a decision or an action that would actually resolve what you're overthinking. Because very often, the loop continues because there's something you know you need to do that you haven't done yet. The thinking is a way of staying close to the problem without actually solving it. Sometimes the only thing that ends the loop is making the choice, sending the message, having the conversation, taking the step. Hash one thing to carry with you. Tonight, if the thoughts start looping, try this. Instead of trying to stop them, ask one question. What am I feeling underneath all of this thinking? Not what am I thinking about, what am I feeling? Sit with whatever comes up, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it doesn't make complete sense. Let it be there for a moment without immediately converting it back into thought. That moment of contact with the actual feeling is often all the loop needed. Not a solution, not a resolution, just acknowledgement. I'll see you in the next one.